Welcome to another edition of Sports Night Radio live at Boston Pizza, 40 Eglinton Avenue East in Toronto. Joined as always with Ashley, Julie Binks, and the Weasel Marchiello. Today we're talking about a simple thing: the Western semifinals in the NHL. We've got the Detroit Red Wings versus the young Hawks, the BlackHawks of Chicago. Who's going to win? We're going to decide that right now. Started off with March. We know that you wanted Chicago to be here from the start. What were the key factors in getting Chicago here right now, and do they have a chance against the defending Stanley Cup champions and the Detroit Red Wings?
Well, first of all, this is what the Detroit fans and the Blackhawks fans have been waiting all year. You guys know it, we know it. And I have a friend of mine out there, Peter Bosco, you've been taunting me all year about this. You're going to get it. And you know if the Hawks win, I'm going to burn down your house. So get ready. We're coming for you. You got the defending Stanley Cup champions against the upstart Blackhawks. It's going to be a lot of factors in this series. And, you look at the regular season. Of the 6 games, Detroit took the first 4, 2 in overtime. They won the Winter Classic. And at that time, you know what? I thought the Hawks weren't ready. It was men against boys. But the last 2 games, Chicago won the games. There's going to be a lot of factors in this. You got Osgood against Habibulin. We need Habibulin to outplay him. That's going to be a key factor. They both got young players. They both got their top players. I mean, Detroit's got the experience. And Chicago's going in with, you know what? We're here. The pressure's not on us. And sometimes that works to your advantage. Where Detroit, you got to win. We don't. You guys are the ones that have to come up. And there's a lot of different factors we can look at here. One of it is they both have very good power plays. You want to stay out of the box. So the key is Detroit still going to be able to get into the young Hawks' minds? Because if they do, it'll be over in 5. All right? Now, Chicago, you guys stay away from the penalty box. I know you want to get in there and start jumping up and all that. They move up, their 4 players up. But you got to watch out the transition because Detroit has a very good transition coming back. And there's all the little. Oh, here we go. Here we go. A Detroit fan, I'm sure. No, go ahead. There's no monologue. It's what we believe. Go ahead.
There's
a couple
other of us here, too.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Bring us an opinion.
No, but honestly, do you think that the Hawks can actually take over Detroit? I mean, yeah, they've done well in the series, and they've prevailed against some really great teams. But come on, look at the Wings.
No, I admit, everything is against the Hawks in this series. They've beaten Calgary. Everybody says, yeah, but Calgary, they had all those injuries, which is true, they did. And then everybody, but you're going to face Luongo against Vancouver next. There's no way you're going to beat Luongo. That's funny, but they were popping like goals left and right against them. But you're right. No, I don't even think it'll come against the experience and the youthness of the Hawks. Will the Hawks believe they can beat Detroit? They're original 6 matchup. They're in the same division, so they know each other. And they've been there too. Taze and Kane, they're young, but they're winners. Yeah, I know, you got Zetterberg and that soup, with the experience and they're older and all that. That's great, but sometimes that youth can overtake what experience you have. Plus, you know what? Detroit won last year. Is the hunger there? No, but the Hawks sure is, and they want to win.
But let me ask you something. You mentioned it before. The Winter Classic took place. Obviously, it was Detroit versus Chicago. Do you think this is something that the NHL is really happy about, that one game that the Winter Classic has become an annual thing now? Now, that one game is now an original 6 Western Conference semifinal. The same 2 teams. Is this bankable? Is this marketable for the NHL?
It's fantastic. Why wouldn't you have the 2 original teams in there? And then the clash between the Hawks and the Red Wings, and then you got little things too, like Scotty Bowman being with the Red Wings for so long. Now he's with the Hawks in the first year. Will he be the deciding factor? Can he give some information or something about Detroit to make the Hawks beat them?
We saw in the Winter Classic that what happened was that the Chicago Blackhawks were very excited to be in that type of situation.
I agree.
And they got blown out completely by Detroit.
I agree.
Do you think that some of this will happen in this, or do you think that they have their experience right now getting past the first 2 rounds?
Yes, that's what I was trying to say though. If the Red Wings get into the Hawks' minds that they can't beat them, it could be over in 5.
Yeah.
But the Hawks have come a long way. That's what people don't see. I agree. From the Winter Classic, it was men against boys. Like Detroit is just a powerhouse. And Chicago is not ready yet, but they've come a long way. They're not here to lose. There's no pressure on them. And that could be a deciding factor in the whole series.
They have 2 options in this. They can either go and regroup for next year, Chicago, come back as an even better team and take this out of the learning experience.
No. They can't do that. You got Habibulin, who's a free agent, and he's carrying them in the playoffs. He's not going to be back next year. And Marty Havlat, one of their biggest offensive threats. Will he be back? We don't know that. No, everybody's thinking it's 2-3 years down the line. You know what? Tell the Hawks that because they think they can win it this year. So you guys can say whatever you want. It's not going to happen.
I know you're saying the Hawks are hungry for this, to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, to win that Stanley Cup. But I mean, the last series with Detroit, they played against Anaheim. It could have gone either way, you know. Could have been Anaheim against them right now. Don't you think that the Wings are even hungrier for another Stanley Cup in a row?
No, but
Well, I think the Wings were kind of embarrassed against the series with
Yeah.
Anaheim, so I think they're going to come out full throttle this time and say, you know what, we're not going to embarrass against the Hawks. We're going to go and we're going to destroy them.
Yeah, but you're also looking at when the Hawks played Vancouver, everybody thought Vancouver going in, they were so hot from the All-Star break, and Luongo, nobody's going to beat them. You know what? The Hawks addressed that. They beat them. And not only did they beat them, they popped 7 goals in the last game to do it. So,
could this be a battle? Could this be a battle of Chris Osgood?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it will come down to the goalies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Happy Bullen has to stand up because the Hawks, they take a lot of chances. And like I said, the transition game from Detroit is very good. And it could end very quickly if they start scoring goals and all that. But you know what? If he stands up and keeps the Hawks in every game, hey, you know what? They can do it. But you're right. Everything is against the Hawks, and that's what I love. There's no pressure on them. It's all on Detroit. And Detroit knows it too. They're older, yeah, but you know what? The Hawks, they don't care. They're here to just play. They win, they win. If not, so what? And sometimes that could be a big deciding factor when you don't have pressure on you.
Well, actually, what do they have to do to? What does Detroit have to do in order to beat Chicago? What do you think?
To beat them, I think they need to come out and show all these little kids that are playing on the Hawks. The Hawks do have a lot of young players, and that is a good strength for them. But I think the experience that Detroit has is going to dominate the youngs. You know, like the young players that come out, skate hard, and they have the energy to do it, but the experience is going to dominate that.
Yeah, but the Hawks have the experience where they need it most, which is goaltending. And they got
Right, but
Sammy
your goalie-
Paulson they picked up at the trade
Your goalie
deadline.
doesn't skate all the way up
He's
the ice.
been
He
a winner
doesn't carry
before.
the rest of the team.
No, but he stops the puck from
Snap.
going in.
Okay, so then
Don't
what
worry, we'll
happens?
win
You
games
have to have
1-0
a
if you have to
defenseman
win
that's going
1-0.
to carry it to your forwards, and you have to have a whole team that works
So
together.
what? But it still comes down to your goaltending.
Yeah, it definitely does. And we've seen that in the series with the Pens and the Caps. It really did come down to goalies last minute. And I mean, Osgood, he's sort of been the weakest link for the team, I'd say.
And Chicago is a much
Past
tougher
year.
team than Detroit, and you can say that Detroit hasn't faced a team that is tougher. They haven't. They faced Anaheim and they faced.
It's not even that. It's the
Columbus.
it's the whole mystique of they're in the same division. They know each other. They want to beat up on each other.
Yeah, but look at
I mean,
Chicago.
you go to a game,
The first round of
in Chicago. Hold
the
on, you
first-
go to a
no,
game
the
in
first
Chicago
round- the
when
first
they're
round
playing
of
other
Chicago
teams.
was Chicago versus Calgary, where it was a tough series. They've gotten each other's heads. They fought. There was a lot
That's
of
right.
big bang. And then all of a sudden, against Vancouver, it was another hard-fought series.
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
Chicago's bred for
Yeah.
that right now.
They said
Detroit isn't.
I agree. They said Chicago wouldn't be ready for.
With experience comes
Yeah.
age and maturity, and that's what Detroit has. That could be their biggest downfall in this because they don't have I would say they don't have the same strength as Chicago does.
But I don't
Chicago
think you
doesn't know
need-
the word quit.
You don't need strength
Yes,
when you have a
that's what we
mindset
have.
as well. If you have a mindset that knows that you can pass here, and make 5 passes, and you're down at the other end, that's great. If you don't have the experience in order to carry your team, that you're skating up and down the ice and making stupid plays, and you're burning yourself out.
And Detroit knows that they're 4 wins away from getting back to the Stanley Cup final for the second year.
That's fine.
On the overall predictions, let's get them over here. Starting, well, we know what your opinion is.
No, I
Okay, no,
think-
no. You're hurting
No.
people's ears. Hold on, we're gonna start with Ash. Ash, who's gonna win this series? And
I'm taking
how many games?
Detroit in 7.
Detroit in 7. Binks?
I'd say Detroit in 6, and I just hope it's interesting. I hope it's as exciting as the last
I think
series.
it'll be the Wild
This
Wild
is one of the
West.
best playoffs we're having, so I don't
Yeah.
think it's
I
going to
think
stop
so.
here.
Yeah.
I think
Weasel?
it's gonna be a crazy series. It's like the Wild Wild West, all kinds of goals. It's gonna be the tenacious play of Detroit against the resilience of Chicago. You know what? I'm gonna go with my heart on this one and say, you know what? Not even Chicago in 7, Chicago in 6. But they have to take the first game.
Huh. I'm gonna somewhat agree with Marcello.
No,
even
please
though
don't
he
do that,
doesn't want
Aaron.
me
You're
to
like a
agree.
curse.
I'm going to say
Okay, if Detroit-
Chicago in 7 games in overtime will win. This series is going to go to 7 games, and it will go to overtime, and the winner will be decided in overtime. And I honestly believe it will be Jonathan Toews in overtime in Game 7. Count me right now. In overtime in Game 7, if I'm right, March give me $10,000. Jonathan Toews
Or Big
will
Kid.
score the overtime winner in Game 7 to put the Chicago Blackhawks to the Stanley Cup final. That is my prediction, and this is what we all agree on. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about what's going on in the Eastern Conference with the Carolina Hurricanes and the Pittsburgh Penguins, who I just don't like Pittsburgh. I don't like the fans and the marketing. I'm going to get into that in a couple seconds when we come back on Sports Night Radio.